Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Leigh Greenwood with the Nature Conservancy. I manage the Forest Pest and Pathogen Program, which is for the US and Canada, for the Nature Conservancy's national office. And part of the Forest Pest and Pathogen Program is the work we do as Don't Move Firewood, which is an outreach campaign. I'm located in Missoula, Montana, and Laurel represents the Eastern US over in Scranton, Pennsylvania. She'll be out on leave soon, so I just wanted to say hi so you can all see my face, hear my voice. And I'm going to have her do the presentation, and then I'll be here for Q&A and any follow-up as well. And Laurel will make sure that if you email her, it comes to me as well. So thanks so much for being here. And Don't Move Firewood it's a big campaign, but it has a lot of little pieces. So Laurel is going to tell you all about the details. Take it away, Laurel.
Leigh. Yeah, I'm gonna probably talk a little fast. So feel free to interrupt me and slow me down if it's too fast, but I was just hoping to leave a couple minutes for Q&A at the end. As Leigh mentioned, I'm Laurel Downs. I work primarily on the Don't Move Firewood campaign, and today I'm going to be giving a pretty broad overview of the campaign itself, and then dive into our resources, tools, and the services that we provide. And Joey mentioned a few things that were already helpful, but I'm hoping to also get some information from you guys out of this today or after today if you want to email me about how our resources could help you the best. So first of all, firewood is a broad pathway for the spread of invasive forest pests and pathogens. We know that these organisms can and do move long distances on firewood, unfortunately, and the regulatory environment on firewood is neither comprehensive nor is it consistent in North America. And so we also see new infestation and pest outbreaks happen every year. And all of these factors combined can make for a really dynamic, complicated, and sometimes like really confusing outreach environment, quite frankly. And so this is where our campaign comes in. We try to keep track of all of this information and convey it to firewood users and forest health professionals in a way that it makes sense. Why does the Nature Conservancy care about this? Ultimately, our goal is to protect trees. And so the tactic with this campaign is to slow the spread of these organisms on the firewood pathway. Our target audience with that is not only people who use firewood, but also really anyone with the will and capacity to act as outreach partners with us and help raise awareness on this issue. The messages themselves, of course, Don't Move Firewood is a message in and of itself, but we always couple that with a secondary action-based message telling people what they should do in place of not moving firewood. And that can depend on where you are geographically, but it's usually either buy it where you burn it, gather on site if that's permitted and responsible to do so, or buy certified heat-treated firewood when that's available. So there is still a really big need for outreach. Our own research shows that less than half of the public is aware of the firewood pathway. Even less are aware that there are any firewood regulations that go along with firewood movement. We also know from our research that forestry-related professionals are the most trusted messengers with this information. So it's another reason for us to work very closely with other outreach professionals to have a consistent message. And we know that positive, again, action-oriented messaging is more effective than the kind of doom and gloom messaging. So that's why we always have kind of a really simple best practice alternative to just not moving firewood involved in our outreach. If you have not been to the don'tmovefirewood.org website, I really highly recommend you check it out, as we have a litany of resources that you can just pull right from our website and use for your purposes, educational purposes, if it's useful to you. A lot of those are in the resource library. We also keep track of all of the customized digital advertisements and graphics that we work on with folks, so that you can see what's out there and what we've done for other people and see if that's useful for you. We can customize anything. We also have a very useful firewood map. So this is an interactive tool where people can go and click on any state and province and get a pretty good indication of any relevant firewood regulations in those areas. Certainly any pest of concerns, and then resources from different outreach entities in those areas as well. As you can imagine, these things are constantly changing, and so we take a real effort to keep this material updated on an annual basis. But certainly if you see anything out of date, or if you know of resources or websites that should be on there, please reach out and we're happy to add that. Okay, we also have information on the forest pests and pathogens themselves. So at the top tab on our main page there, or any of the pages, you'll see invasive species, and you can get a lot of information on the different organisms. We have a news tab up there as well. And so anytime we're hosting events or promoting other people's events, webinars, that sort of thing is going to be there. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. We have one going right now. 10 of our most popular pages have been translated to Spanish to make for a Spanish language microsite. And then again, working with other outreach professionals and partners, we have a lot of resources specifically directed towards those folks, which I will also get more into. I do just want to briefly talk about how firewood is typically regulated. First, as kind of a background for anyone who's less familiar on this topic. It's quarantines. So there's two overall large types of quarantines. You have external quarantines and internal quarantines. External quarantines, you're trying to keep something out of an area. Internal quarantines means you probably already have that and you're trying to keep it from spreading further. An example, so Washington State right now has proposed an external quarantine on firewood. We don't know the details of that yet, and I think a public comment period is coming up, but that's an example that's really relevant for your area. And then another relevant one is the internal quarantine that Oregon has for the emerald ash borer detections it found in a few different counties. Most of the firewood quarantines in the United States are state-based pest-specific quarantines, under which firewood is just one of several regulated articles. So another common regulated article would be nursery stock, for example. And so these regulated articles cannot legally pass a boundary, a quarantine boundary, without some sort of treatment, written exemption, certification, some sort of compliance agreement with the regulating authority. All of this information and detailed legal information a lot of times is in our firewood comparison report. So this is a resource that is basically like the firewood map on steroids. So it gets very technical and detailed and has every single regulation as it relates to firewood. It has certification information, in other words, certification of the heat treatment of firewood for all the different states. It has a lot of outreach information. It's just a lot, but it's also very useful. So if you're looking for detailed information like that, you want to see what's going on where and what that sort of legal language looks like, this is definitely the place to go. Every state has its own summary page in the appendix as well. And as you can imagine, this also changes quite frequently. The latest version we have out right now is from January. I would not be surprised if it's already a little out of date in some ways, but certainly this is a very useful resource for this sort of detailed information. And the big takeaway that we found with it is that there is really an all-around need for more consistency, both in a regulatory sense, but especially in an outreach sense. And since we don't have any say on regulations as an educational outreach campaign, we're going to talk a lot more about outreach. So Joey mentioned that some tribal nations have RV parks and other publicly accessible campgrounds and that sort of thing. So that's really good information for us to know, because understanding how our resources can be most effective for our partner entities really helps us kind of figure out where to start with improving outreach. And a lot of people do think about physical signage when they think about don't move firewood, and that can be very useful, and certainly we can help with that. However, what we really recommend is having a robust online outreach environment, because once somebody has shown up to your campground, they usually have or have not already brought firewood, potentially from faraway distances, potentially infested. So having, again, those direct, succinct, action-oriented messages in all of the relevant online locations that it makes sense to have them is really going to help you reach folks in the planning stages of their trips. And they're going to know not to grab the firewood from their backyard and drive it 300 miles into your area. So again, we have a lot to learn with tribal nations in this part of the country, but stuff, we're already kind of thinking, and just from previous work we've done with folks, any relevant online spaces and locations on tribal nation websites, and certainly any informational pages on large events, fairs, events that bring in people from out of state. You definitely want to have that information there. Also, any informational resources on home heating, firewood banks, that sort of thing. Again, driving home the message that local is best. And excuse me, that's going to be really important. So we do have, fortunately, a grant right now from the U.S. Forest Service to really hyper focus our efforts in your area, so in Washington and Oregon. This was sparked because of the emerald ash borer detection in recent years in Oregon. And we are hoping to hire someone to focus all of their attention pretty much on this project, because we cover all of North America, which is a lot. But given the recent detection of emerald ash borer in Vancouver and Washington, we think it's important to really expand our partnerships and our outreach efforts in this region. There's a lot less familiarity with the firewood pathway, we hypothesize, in this part of the country, just because in comparison to other places that have had pests like emerald ash borer for a lot longer. And so, these are all reasons to really jump on this now. So emerald ash borer, as I mentioned, that's one of them. We know that's in Oregon now. It's in Canada, in Vancouver, just north of you guys. Oregon also has Mediterranean oak borer, so does California. P. rumorum causes sudden oak death. That is in Oregon as well. Spotted lanternfly is on the horizon. That's spreading very quickly across the United States. It's been found at border stations in California, and that's not a good pest, especially for agricultural resources. Spongy moth does periodically pop up in this region as well. The flighted spongy moth complex has been eradicated a few times, which is good, but these are all examples of really relevant pests to this region right now. There are a lot of other pests that can be devastating that also travel on firewood. And so we recommend, even though emerald ash borer is the hot topic right now, to really focus on the firewood. We've seen in other places that have had pests like emerald ash borer become widely established. You can get kind of lost cause mentality over time, especially when people see that all of their ash trees are dead or dying, that they can be like, who cares at this point, move it around. I've seen comments like that. You definitely don't want to have that sentiment take hold once a pest is widely established, of course, because that undermines ongoing management efforts. You don't want people with widely established pests like that moving their firewood because they think it doesn't matter, it's inevitable. But also it can cause confusion and frustration when new pests come onto the horizon. You're gonna have to revamp your outreach efforts again. And so that's why we just say, like, focus on the firewood. Of course, you can give emerald ash borer as examples, but really you don't want to take away from the fact that there are many different pests that use this pathway. So again, we're here to help. Check out our resource library. Again, we can customize graphics for folks. We can get different logos on there. We can get specific wording. Certainly, we'd like to learn more from you and how you think it would be best to work with us. We can give you a strategy, customized strategy, suggestions, as I said, materials in some cases. So please reach out. Right now, we have a lot of generic outreach materials available to order if you're interested. So things that especially kids love, like temporary tattoos, stickers, informational brochures. If this is material that you think would be useful for your efforts, please reach out. Please reach out soon, because as Leigh mentioned, I will be going on leave in the coming weeks. So, but I can get stuff out this week and next, and I'd be happy to do so. And again, just a reminder to check out our resource library. We have a lot of social media graphics, just a lot of things that you can pull and use for educational purposes, totally for free. We're happy to provide this stuff, so please take advantage of it. And then I mentioned the news tab on our website. If you want to click on that, you'll see our EAB Awareness Week 2025 webinar series is up, and the registration links are live. We have 4 informational topics right now. If you want to learn more about this pest, the impacts and management efforts ongoing, cultural resources of ash for other tribal nations, especially in the East, messaging strategies on social media from more research of ours. Just a lot of really great content here, and we would be delighted to have you join us for that. So I think that's all I have. I hope I didn't go too fast, and I hope I left a minute or two for Q&A if anyone is up for that. So thank you.